Guys, the UFC just released the poster for Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, June 29, 5-rounder in the welterweight division. And I don't usually do this type of video, but man, is this poster one of the worst posters I've ever seen. First of all, that's an old picture of Conor McGregor. Second of all, Michael Chandler looks like a toddler screaming at his mom to buy him that new toy. It's absolutely pathetic. And then the color is atrocious. When I first saw this poster, I thought it was fan made. I was like, what, is this really real? Is this like UFC 300? This poster is atrocious, and I don't understand how the UFC, a multi-billion-dollar company, doesn't make badass posters for their biggest cards ever. Like, UFC 300 should have had a banger of a poster. UFC 303, the return of Conor McGregor, an explosive fight against Michael Chandler, should be one of the best posters in the UFC. And this was a fight card that I was going to buy the poster for. And honestly, after looking at this poster, at the official poster, this is terrible. Like, terribly bad. This might be the worst poster for a Conor McGregor fight I've ever seen. And I know that, maybe his other posters haven't been that great. I think his poster against Dustin Poirier, the second one, was actually pretty decent. Let me look at it. Let me search it up. Poirier 2. Let me see. Let's look at okay. Yeah, this poster is way better. This poster is a little bit better. Let me see if I could get an HD image. Let me see. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's a way better poster than the one we got. Man, that poster is horrible. And I'm going to be honest, I think this just shows that the UFC doesn't really care about Conor McGregor's return. I know it's something very little like the poster, but man, I just feel like they're not really trying with the marketing. I don't really feel like the UFC is actually trying to hype up Conor McGregor's return. I feel like they're just treating it like another pay-per-view. And let's be honest, McGregor is the biggest superstar they have by a mile, by a long shot. Nobody comes close to Conor McGregor's pay-per-view numbers. So I don't understand why they're treating this as just another fight. Like, hype this shit up, man. Hype this shit up. Hire me and I'll market the shit out of this fight and I'll get people excited for it, because let's be honest, the fight should have happened last year. I feel like MMA fans are not that excited for McGregor versus Chandler, especially since McGregor is coming off an injury. He's coming off not fighting for 4 years. We know he's on the cocaine. We know he hasn't been dedicated. We know he hasn't been training. Michael Chandler has waited in the wings for 2-3 years to get this fight. So I feel like the longer the time has gone by, the less people care about this fight. And then the UFC comes out with this bullshit ass poster. Like, what's up with the UFC not trying for the biggest cards ever? Like, UFC 300 should have had a better poster. How does UFC 301 have a better poster than UFC 300? How does that fucking make sense? And like I said, I know it's something small, man. I know that you guys in the comment section are going to be like, oh, Based MMA, why do you care so much about the fucking poster? I just think that it shows the level of care that the UFC really has for their fans, for, advertising their fights, for advertising these matchups. It's kind of insane to think that fight nights get better poster than some of the pay-per-views. And I actually think the UFC was on a good streak, because the UFC 299 poster was actually pretty decent. The 298 poster with Volkanovski to Poirier was a decent poster as well. I thought UFC 301 had a pretty decent poster, which this poster definitely feels like a poster that would belong on a Brazil card. I just think it's a terrible poster. I think it's an old picture of McGregor from the Donald Cerrone fight. Michael Chandler looks like a toddler. They're screaming. McGregor Chandler, I guess the font of the letters is pretty decent. I just don't like the filter over it. It should have been something a little bit cleaner. I don't like it. I absolutely hate this poster. I know maybe perhaps this is a little bit of an irrelevant video, but I really am that passionate, and I really think it shows that the UFC just doesn't really care about really advertising McGregor's return. I don't know if they had, if the negotiations were bad between them. I don't know if they just want McGregor out of the UFC. I don't know if they just don't care. Maybe the UFC just doesn't give a fuck, man, because we've seen that for some pay-per-views they also don't give a fuck. So I just find it kind of insane that the UFC is treating McGregor this McGregor fight as just another fight, which is absolutely insane. This is McGregor, their biggest superstar, the guy that blew up this sport to what it is now. And I understand that McGregor is not in the best place. I understand that he's not in his prime. And I'm not even trying to glaze Conor McGregor because I think he's going to lose this fight, man. I mean, actually, I don't know. Maybe McGregor could chin him because we know Chandler's going to be throwing autistic hooks. We know Chandler has terrible fight IQ. So I could definitely see McGregor countering him and chinning him. But we just don't know how Conor looks these days. We don't know if he's better than his version of 2021. Maybe he looks better, man, because USADA is out of the picture. Maybe he's been juicing. Jose Aldo looked a bit too good against Jonathan Martinez. You know, Chris Weidman also looked pretty decent. I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I don't know if they've been juicing, but maybe McGregor's on the juice. Maybe he's going to have a lot of power. Maybe he'll be able to knock out Michael Chandler. I definitely think there's a possibility of McGregor chinning Michael Chandler even with this time off, and even though he's coming off an injury, because we know Chandler is going to be throwing his meaty autistic hooks. We've seen him get dropped by even a washed Tony Ferguson, but logically Chandler should win this fight just based on the wrestling, based on the fact that he's been a little bit more active. I know he hasn't fought in 2 years as well. The fact that he has a power advantage, the fact that he's been training, and I'm assuming that McGregor is going to come into this fight a worse version of himself than the one we saw against 2021, who was getting pieced up by Dustin Poirier in that trilogy before the leg break. But who knows? I'm probably siding with Chandler right now. Maybe the week of the fight I'll pick McGregor, but right now I have to go with Chandler. But man, this poster is atrocious, guys. I want to know what you guys think, man. I really do think this is one of the worst posters the UFC has ever done. And the fact that it's for a McGregor return and possibly one of the biggest pay-per-views of all time, absolute insanity. One of the worst posters ever. I absolutely hate it. And I had to make a video about it because I was really that mad. When I looked at this, I was like, shit, is this fan made? Full Violence? Who made this poster? This looks fan made. It's just a terrible poster. I don't know why they went with that font. It doesn't even make sense. This is going to take place in Las Vegas. It's not even for a title fight. What's with the yellow and gold and green? Like, is this a Brazil card? Like, what the fuck is this? Is this poster absolutely atrocious? Let me know what you guys think. What do you think of this poster? Do you actually like it? I haven't seen anybody say that they like the poster. Look, mid-ass poster. First round knockout. McGregor in 1. This was announced already. My poster guess was close. Okay, so people are not really talking about the poster. Just as mid as the fight itself. Okay, a Dustin Poirier fan. So I don't think people are too happy about this poster. It's truly one of the worst posters that the UFC has put out. And maybe you guys don't really care about that shit, but I really do care about that shit. I like to buy the UFC posters. I like when the UFC actually puts a badass poster. And it's kind of crazy how the UFC makes better posters for UFC fight nights than they do for some of the pay-per-views. Like UFC 301 actually had a pretty decent poster. And then UFC 300 had a terrible poster. UFC 299 with Sean O'Malley and Vera, that's the poster that I bought. It's actually a pretty decent poster. I like the poster between Volkanovski and Topuria. Duplessis and Strickland was also a very good poster. But man, this has to be the worst poster of those bunch of the posters we've gotten this year. This is a terrible poster. And you would think they would try a little bit harder for their biggest superstar. But it is what it is, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm pretty sure that maybe some of you guys don't even give a fuck about this. But let me know down in the comments below what you think. And I'll see you guys in the next one.